What really happened behind Jungkook's smile? Why did HYBE not move?
Done?
Is it true that other BTS members are starting to feel neglected just because of one big decision for the sake of their mother? This was not just a noble act. It was the beginning of an unexpected emotional rupture. Surprising fact: Jungkook's actions for his family left everyone speechless. Who would have thought? Behind the calmness of Jungkook's face that always looked perfect in front of the camera, there was a big decision that shook BTS's emotional foundation. It's not just about sacrifice. It's not just about family love. It's about courage that creates a wave of jealousy, hidden conflicts, and situations that even HYBE herself is not able to control. Was this action really born of a sacred intention? Or is there something deeper that we don't know? It all started with a personal decision that was never publicly announced, one that Jungkook made for his mother, who is rarely in the spotlight but is believed to be a central figure in his life. All of a sudden, HYBE's agenda changed. The release schedule of a large project that had been designed in advance was postponed. Advertising contracts are frozen. Some broadcast agendas were pulled back. And more surprisingly, only one person gets special treatment in this situation: Jungkook. The question is, why does HYBE give so much leeway to only one member? And why does not a single internal party dare to voice this injustice? According to an internal source who declined to be named, this decision not only came from Jungkook, but was also fully supported by HYBE's top ranks. The reason? The mother, who is said to have a serious health condition, needed Jungkook's presence intensely. This made Jungkook choose to postpone most of his solo activities, including international projects that had even touched the American and Japanese markets. But this is the starting point of unspoken tension. The other members, who had been known to be very compact and solid, suddenly began to show signs of change. Jimin, who usually always appears cheerful, began to appear more often silent in some interviews. Taeil, who is known to be close to Jungkook's family, was seen avoiding the topic of family when asked by reporters. The leader, made ambiguous statements several times when discussing differences in priorities within the group. Does this mean they are jealous? Or are they just being hurt because they don't get the same treatment? These questions were further magnified when some fans realized that only Jungkook was given the facility to return home unexpectedly for a whole week without any media activity. While other members, even when facing difficult family conditions, do not get the same flexibility. This is where emotions start to mix. Jungkook, as a child, certainly has the right to take care of his mother. But what about the feelings of his friends who feel treated differently? How does Taeil feel, who supposedly once wanted to go on leave to accompany his sick grandmother, but was hindered by a busy schedule that could not be postponed? And how could HYBE allow this difference to happen when they always put equality first in the group? Some of the army began to feel something strange. Behind-the-scenes footage shows Suga taking a deep breath as he watches Jungkook announce a change in his promotional schedule. A small gesture, but strong enough to indicate the presence of something unspoken. The climax came when Jin, who is currently serving his military service, made a short statement in an open letter to the army. Sometimes, the best decision for one person is not necessarily the best for everyone. These words immediately interpreted a wide variety. Is that a subtle allusion to the current situation between Jungkook and the other members? HYBE himself gave no official clarification. Even when a press conference was held to discuss BTS's next agenda, questions about Jungkook's absence and family situation were not answered clearly. They simply said, "We support each of our artists' decision to put family as a priority." But is this just a political form of "we can't do anything"? And now, fans are wondering, is this the beginning of a major change in BTS dynamics? Jungkook himself never gave an explicit statement about his mother's condition. She wrote, "Family is the reason I'm still here," in a very short but moving Instagram post. The sentence became the subject of tremendous speculation. Was it a message about his mother's struggle? Or is it an indirect admission that without his family, he may have already left? The situation became even more emotional when fans discovered that Jungkook's latest song had hidden lyrics that looked like a letter to his mother. "Every step I take, I leave a trail for home, because there's no warmer light than your eyes." The lyrics made a lot of soldiers cry. But it also makes many people wonder, does love for mom now have to be paid for by the tenuous relationship with Jungkook's second family, BTS? There was an overwhelming sense of awe at Jungkook's actions. But there were also unspoken wounds from those around him. Not a few fans wrote on social media, "We understand you, Jungkook. But do not forget about those who always walk with you." Now, all eyes are on what will happen next. Will BTS remain one heart after the storm? Or will the decision for the sake of this family trigger a split that has never been imagined? One thing is for sure, Jungkook's actions didn't just make HYBE lose control, but it also shook the entire K-pop world. Because for the first time, a personal act, born of the sincere affection of a child, becomes a small fire that burns the sense of trust, equality, and the togetherness that has been considered unshakable. Are you ready to accept the fact that family can change everything? But why does this feel like an unhealed wound between them? We may too easily believe that BTS will always walk the same path. That no matter how hard the storm comes, the 7 stars will always form a constellation that will not fade. But now, one star shines too brightly, no longer moving with the same sky. Behind Jungkook's humane decision, clearly based on a deep love for his mother, lies a painful fact. Not all members get such privileges. Taeil, for example, who some time ago lost a close friend of his family, was not given a rest dispensation by the agency. He continued to undergo a schedule of filming, shooting, until the live show as usual. Even in a state of grief, when Jimin went through a difficult time after his grandmother's departure, there was only a pause of one day before he returned to stand on stage for the schedule that had been promised. Even when ARMY asked why Jimin looked so calm behind the camera, no one knew that behind the stage, he was holding back tears in silence. But Jungkook, he's got time. Gain space. He was even accompanied by HYBE's team in full during his visit to the mother's hospital. One action that confirms that when it comes to Jungkook's family, HYBE chose to relinquish control. And this is where the most painful question arises. Has Jungkook's status gone beyond the word BTS member? Is he now an asset that is too big to be touched, even by his own fellow members? In a non-broadcast event recorded by a fan site, it was clearly an astonishing interaction. As Taeil tries to snap Jungkook's shoulder with his usual jest, the magne only smiles stiffly. Not angry, but it's not as warm as it used to be. At first glance, the interaction looks ordinary. But for the ARMY who followed their journey for more than a decade, the gesture felt like the world was beginning to change direction. Jungkook looks a lot more aloof. I don't go to live shows with other members anymore. Even some fans noticed that in the latest promotion of Jin's solo project, Jungkook only shared one story and didn't write any captions, something he usually does passionately when supporting other members. What does all this mean? Is this a form of guilt? Or is it just the shape of the boundary that he deliberately made to maintain privacy and concentration on his mother? Even more surprising was the reaction of HYBE. In an internal meeting that reportedly discussed the BTS unit's comeback schedule, there was a long debate about whether Jungkook would be able to join the promotion period that had been arranged. But apparently, HYBE himself suggested that the schedule adjust to Jungkook's availability first. Yeah, the schedule suits him. It was not he who adjusted the group's schedule. This is where that feeling grows. Jealousy. Even Jin, who has been known to be the wisest and most mature, reportedly sent a private message to the group's manager, questioning the decision. Is BTS still a group, or has it turned into an individual project with the same flag? He wrote. Suga, who is known to be quiet but very sensitive to the feelings of his fellow members, several times gave a cold response when asked about the group's dynamics. In a Japanese radio interview, when asked, "How is BTS' relationship after focusing on their respective solo projects?" he simply replied, "We all go our own way, but not all roads meet each other." That answer sounded neutral, but for many ARMY, it was like an acknowledgement that something was not quite right. And when Jimin finally appeared in the live broadcast alone, his eyes could not hide his emotional exhaustion. "I just want everything to go back to the way it was," she said softly, laughing softly, a laugh that looked more like a restrained cry. That sentence struck millions of ARMY hearts around the world. What is really going on behind those thick walls of HYBE? Did Jungkook's loving act actually open up old wounds between the members? Is that their silence during this time is not because they agree, because they don't have a choice. There. That night, the atmosphere of the BTS dorm in the Hanamdong area felt empty. Not because there was no sound, but because the usually loudest sounds, laughter, guitar, impromptu singing from Jungkook, had long been inaudible. Even the sound of his footsteps in the apartment corridor felt like an old memory. The staff called it a strange silence. And oddly enough, the foreignness began to become routine. Jimin, who used to be the first person to knock on Jungkook's door just to bring him coffee on a whim, now goes home alone more often after training. Taeil, who used to easily throw a jacket on Jungkook's back while saying, "Come on, let's go outside for a bit," now spends more of his time in the painting studio on his own. Suga, who has always been known as the guardian of the atmosphere, no longer even writes small notes to other members as usual. And Jin, it was like he was deliberately moving away. The army began to pay attention. They are an army with too strong an intuition to ignore. In a fan cam that circulated during BTS's anniversary event, many fans noted Jimin's expression that looked like he was struggling to contain his emotions. His hands are sweating. Her lips are stiff. Even when Jungkook's name was mentioned, he only smiled briefly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. What the hell is going on? Many began to connect this with internal rumors that had circulated among the staff. Some said that Jimin and Taeil tried to talk to Jungkook in private, but it made the atmosphere tense. Not a fight, not a debate. But that silence is too long. Eyes that don't look at each other. And one sentence from Jungkook that changed everything. "I can't put you first now. My mother is more important." No one can blame that sentence. But pain doesn't always come from mistakes. Sometimes, it comes from a decision that should be understood, but is too painful to accept, and the public began to wonder, is this the real reason why some BTS schedules have suddenly changed? Some collaboration projects pending? And the most surprising thing why was the subunit project between Jimin and Taeil, which was predicted to be an emotional duet, suddenly cancelled without any official reason. An insider, who is known to be close to BTS's creative team, anonymously revealed that the cancellation came after a tense internal meeting. Jimin is rumored to want to release songs themed Silent Sacrifice and Unrequited Love. The lyrics are too emotional, too honest, and, according to some people in the room, too insinuating BTS's internal situation. HYBE rejected the song. They consider the theme too personal and can trigger unhealthy speculation. But most of the army know Jimin's songs so far are honest. And if this time he's not allowed to be honest, then something is being covered up. Suspicions are heightened when Taeil begins actively slipping clues on social media. Some of the photos look ordinary, but the captions are a hot topic. One of them, "You used to be home, but even houses can collapse." That sentence shook the fandom. Is it meant for Jungkook? For BTS? Or for himself, who began to lose his place among those whom he used to call brothers? Even more surprising was HYBE's decision to pull back the release of a behind-the-scenes video of their final rehearsal. Videos that are supposed to show warmth instead show distance. In a short clip that was leaked, Jimin is seen walking alone leaving the rehearsal room, while Jungkook talks for a long time with the staff. No hugs, no greeting. Only the cold air is suffocating. At this point, all questions lead to one thing. Is this the end of the togetherness that we thought was eternal? But the public's curiosity was not exhausted. An 8-second clip appeared that destroyed everything. During a backstage event, a fan site camera captured a moment where Jungkook seemed speechless, hearing something on his earphones. His face stiffened. Immediately, he stood up, put down the mic, and said, unknowingly being recorded, "I can't believe they feel that way." The phrase went viral. Army began to speculate. Did Jungkook just realize the feelings of the other members? Does he not know that his decision makes them feel abandoned? Or did she know all along, but try to block out the guilt in favor of focusing on her mother? But the hardest reality to swallow is this. Even the most sincere love can hurt people we didn't mean to hurt. And behind all this, one name continues to emerge as a mediator in the shadows. The genie. After a long silence, Jin finally uploaded a post on Weverse. A photo of him looking up at the night sky with a caption,